Okay, so we're going to talk about now is we're going to start talking about the idea of evaluating functions. Evaluating functions. All right, and so if I have this function right here, let's say number one. Let's suppose my function is f of x equal 3x minus 2. All right. Now remember, f of x means the same thing as what letter? Y. All right. So now we're going to start talking about this function notation. Well, what is that f of x? All we know is that it's the same thing as y. So when we did this before, and we put y here, and we wanted to find points on that graph, we use a t-table, remember? Mm-hmm. And so if x was, let's say, 2, how do I find my y value? We said y equals 3 times 2 minus 2. So that's 6 minus 2, which is 4. Okay? Then we said, all right, if x is, let's say, negative 3, if x is negative 3, then what you did on that first worksheet was you said, well, that's going to be y equals 3 times negative 3 minus 2. So that's negative 9 and negative 2, which is negative 11. And so we plotted that point. So when x is 2, my y value is 4. When x is negative 3, my y value is negative 11. So that's what we did. Well, now we're going to look at, well, what does all this mean in terms of function notation? So I'm going to go back, I'm going to rewrite this function. So instead of using a t-table like I did, and I wrote a t-table and I said x is 2, let's find the y value. X is negative 3, let's find the y value. I could instead say this. I could write like this. Now, this notation right here is read, you read this as f of x. That's how you read this, f of x. That of here does not mean to multiply. So that does not mean f times x. Don't get that word of confused with percents. That's not the same thing. So instead of saying, using a t-table, I could have easily said this. Remember, this stands for x, right? So I could have said, well, I'm going to find f of 2. Just like I did here. I said, if x is 2, what is the what? Y value. So in place of x, I'm going to plug in what? 2. Just like I did here. Notice the similarities. He said if I'm given x is 2, I got to find the y value. So wherever you saw the variable x, would you plug in? 2. You just make that connection. So I'll be 3 times 2 minus 2, which is 6 minus 2, which is what? 4. So on the worksheet, or on my math lab, you're going to say f of 2 equals blank, and what do you put in the blank? 4. Make the connection between this notation and this notation. So basically what you found was a point on the graph. So when x is 2, what's my y value? 4. That's what you found. So in terms of a corresponding point, so your corresponding point is going to be 2, 4. That's what you found. That's what you found here. So if I want to find f of, let's say, negative 4, f of negative 4. So instead of using a t-table like I did earlier, I can just say, all right, I want to find f of negative 4, which means if x is negative 4, I need to find the y value, right? Mm-hmm. So all you do is go back to your function where we see the variable x. What do you plug in? Negative 4, just like you did here, just like you did on the first worksheet. So you'll say 3 times negative 4 minus 2. What's 3 times negative 4? Negative 12. And what's a negative 12 and a negative 2? Negative 14. So on the worksheet, you'll say f of negative 4 equals blank. What do you put in the blank? Negative 14. That's what you found. So basically you found a corresponding point on the graph being x is negative 4. Y value is what? Negative 14. Okay? So that's function notation. That's the idea of function notation. So let's look at number 2. Suppose number 2, we had this. All right, number 2, suppose we had f of x equal x squared minus 3. All right. And remember, this is quadratic. So if you graphed it, you remember you graphed one of those for tonight that you had to turn in? In fact, this was probably one of them. So you took the parent function, you moved it down or up? Down, how many units? 3. All right, so, but you're not asked to graph these with what we're doing. But you are going to evaluate this function. I want to find f of, let's say, negative 2. So instead of using a t-table like I did earlier, I can just, wherever I see the variable x, what can I plug in? Negative 2. That's what that says. So remember, when you using negative values, always put that in parentheses. So that's negative 2 in parentheses, and what am I doing to it? Squaring it. And then whatever that is, I'm going to subtract 3. What's negative 2 times itself? And what's 4 minus 3? 1. So you found your y value. When x is negative 2, what's the y value? 1. All right, but on the worksheet, you have to evaluate this. So you say f of negative 2 equals blank. What do you put in the blank? 1. All right, what about if you want to find f of, let's say, 4? F of 4. So where we see the variable x, what do you plug in? 4. So same as you did before. So 4 squared minus 3. What's 4 squared?
16.
And what's 16 minus 3? 13. So you'd say f of 4 equals blank. What do you go into blank? 13. And then let's say you want to find f of 0. F of 0. So where we see the variable x, what do you plug in? 0. So I get 0 squared minus 3. What's 0? 0 minus 3, which is negative 3. So in the blank, you'll say f of 0 equals blank. What goes in the blank? Negative 3. All right, let's look at one more, and then we'll do some more with this next class period. So number 3, suppose we had h of x. So it doesn't always have to be f. It could be any letter, h of x, g of x, k of x. Any letter could represent function notation. So let's suppose h of x is this, absolute value of x plus 5, just like that. And let's say you want to find, remember that's that shape of a V if you were to graph it. But you're not asked to graph this. Now, that is due next class period, right? So let's kind of review this for next class period. That's the worksheet that's due. What is the vertex of this? No. Negative 5, 0. That's a horizontal shift, right? So remember, the parent function, the vertex at the origin, this says I shifted which way? If it's on the inside, what kind of shift is this? Horizontal. So on the outside, it's a vertical shift. It's a horizontal shift. When it's horizontal, you think counterintuitive. So instead of 5, positive, it's really what? Negative. So you go to the left 5. So your vertex is negative 5, 0. Okay? All right, so make sure when you are doing that worksheet, you look at the class video again. All right, but let's go ahead and find h of, let's say, negative 2. What do you do? Yeah, so you're gonna get the absolute value of negative 2 plus 5. What's negative 2 plus 5? And what's the absolute value of 3? 3. So you're gonna say h of negative 2 equals what number? 3. Let's say you want to find h of negative 8. So that's going to be the absolute value of what? Negative 8 plus 5. What's negative 8 plus 5? And you got to say the absolute value bars now. The absolute value of negative 3 is what now? 3. So h of negative 8 equals 3. And let's say you want to find h of 0. So that's the absolute value of 0 plus 5, which is the absolute value of what? 5, which is 5. So h of 0 equals 5. Okay? All right, now let's do one with decimals, and for that one you use your calculator. So take your calculator out. Take your calculator out for that one. So this is going to be number 4. And let's suppose we had this. K of x equal 1.2x squared minus 3.4x plus 6.3. So write that down. K of x equals 1.2x squared minus 3.4x plus 6.3. I'm doing that because you're going to have one on my math lab. They do have a decimal on my math lab. So let's talk about how to do that. And use your calculator for that. So let's say you want to find this. Let's do this one first. Let's say you want to find k of 3. K of 3. So wherever you see the variable x, what are you going to plug in? 3. So write it out. You're going to say k of 3 equals 1.2 times what? 3 squared minus 3.4 times 3 and then plus 6.3, right? That's what you do. All right, so then you take your calculator. Don't do this by hand. Use your calculator. So your calculator, now remember the one asked you to purchase, or hopefully the one you have, you enter as you see it. That's the best calculator to use. So first thing I see is 1.2. So I say 1.2, 1.2, parentheses, 3, close the parentheses, but I got to do it to that 3. Square it. See that one that looks like a roof, that white thing? You can use that as your exponent. So it can be raised to the 3rd, raised to the 4th, whatever it is. So you click on it, and then you say 2. See how it looks? Yeah, there's a square button also. Yeah, you can use that too. All right. And then minus 3.4 times, in parentheses, what do I put? 3, close the parentheses, just like this. And then plus 6.3. And then press enter. Check your calculator. Make sure you got 6.9.
Oh, I got 7.
You got what?
I got 7.
Okay, it should be. Oh, you probably have a decimal issue. It rounded off to 7, so that means that your calculator has been set to a certain digit. Did you fix it, or you still don't know? There's a button you can click on there to fix your settings. So we'll deal with that at the end. All right, so you should have gotten 6.9, the rest of you? What did you not do?
I think the reset was this other button.
Okay. Okay, so it resets it to the original default. Let's do one more. Let's find k of 2.6. 2.6. K of 2.6. So same thing. You're going to say 1.2 times what? 2.6 squared minus 3.4 times what? 2.6 plus 6.3. All right, use your calculator. So 1.2, parentheses, so times, just put parentheses, it's understood to be a multiplication. 2.6 in parentheses, square, minus 3.4. If you just put parentheses, it's understood to be multiplication, so times 2.6, close, and then plus 6.3. If you did this correctly, it should be 5.572. Huh? Did anyone else get 5.572? Okay, maybe you did?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so you said 1.2 times 2.6 squared, right?
Yeah.
Do it again. Minus 3.4 times 2.6.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay, plus 6.3. Anyone else with an issue?
Okay.
So 1.2 times 2.6 squared minus 3.4 times 2.6 plus 6.3.
Yeah, got it.
Okay,
I
All right.
was
all right.
I was thinking
Yeah.
3.
No, always, and remember, always double check, especially when you use your calculator like this, because you could have easily put in a wrong digit. So with these, on my math lab, just do it over. Okay? All right, so we can continue on with this next class period. Now we're getting close to the chapter where we have to talk about factoring. So we get to that.